also want to thank Eddie for moderating again this year. You're getting to be a professional at this. Welcome, everybody, and Eddie will go over the format that we're going to use tonight.
Thank you, Lud. Stephen, first, keep that off of me as much as possible. This is going to be a very, very simple forum this evening. We're going to call it the 5-minute rule forum. Each candidate will speak, will have their opening remarks for 5 minutes. They will get questions and they will respond to the questions. They have 5 minutes. Then they have 5 minutes for closing remarks. There will be no rebuttal. There'll be no questions from the floor. They'll all come from me. And the only other thing I can say about that to each of you is if you don't want to use your whole 5 minutes, that's probably very wise. So we're going to start with Ms. Swinehart, as she is incumbent, for her opening remarks.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening. I'm very happy to be here this evening, and I want to thank the Deltaville Civic Association for sponsoring this forum. It's a great opportunity to speak with you and also to exchange ideas, so I appreciate that. The question is, why am I running for the Board of Supervisors? Well, as you know, I was appointed to this seat in March, and it's been a great opportunity to learn more about the job. And I have to say, I really like being a supervisor, and I really want to continue to do so. I love this county, and I do believe we're at a crossroads. We have opportunities that will come our way, may come our way, but we have to make sure that we're ready for them. To keep and preserve our way of life and to help everyone enjoy the prosperity, we need to attract more visitors, residents. We need to develop businesses to help this county stay strong and stay competitive. Those new businesses and residents will help contribute to our local economy and ease the pressure on the real estate taxes. How do we do this? Well, keeping Middlesex competitive. Middlesex is a beautiful place. We're all here because we love it. We're surrounded by water and the opportunities that that presents. We have beautiful land. We just have tremendous resources. But we are in competition because Matthews and Lancaster in particular can offer very similar things when someone is looking for waterfront activities, whether for a day trip or to find a new home or to open a business. So we have to compete with those counties, and we have to stay on top of our systems, of our infrastructure. We need to be prepared for opportunities. You can't wait until somebody says, well, I would really like to do this, but you don't have any sewer locations here. We have to be thinking about the future and prepared for those opportunities. Expanding business opportunities is one of the key parts of keeping Middlesex competitive. The infrastructure that is being planned and engineered for the water system, for example, will be a big help in making it possible for areas that have low water quantity or quality to solve that problem, but also especially for businesses where the demands for water mean that you can't expand or you can't rearrange things right now. And it's an expense. If you're starting a new business and you have to come in and put a water system in, that's a lot to ask. The sewer system, wastewater treatment, also will be a big advantage. And I think the design for that in clustered communities, it will be very effective in keeping commercial development and making that available to commercial development and for clusters of areas. In both cases, those will be funded by the user fees, as well as with the sewer system in particular, some county infrastructure funds. But no one will be required to sign up for those systems. It's voluntary. We also need to explore and figure out how to get better internet, and there are efforts underway to do that. I encourage you, there's going to be a town hall that Supervisor Coons is going to host on November 15th, and that will be further discussed. But I'm fully in favor of that expansion of internet. We need to keep the best, public safety and teachers. We need to have the best possible schools that we can, and the budget I voted for enabled us to continue to strive for excellence. Excellent schools keep the county competitive, and we need to preserve our quality of life. The county needs to be responsive to these industries: fishing, boating, tourism, and agriculture. The boat tax reduction was right. It will take time, but the boating business is being promoted. And we also need to preserve our way of life by maintaining the land use program. I know the county cannot continually ask homeowners for more and more taxes to pay for services. We must attract new businesses and new residents and expand our tax base. I'm optimistic. I know we can do this, and we will work together to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Eddie boy, and thank you all for being here tonight. Thanks to the DCA for hosting this. I really appreciate it. I'm sure that Ms. Swinehart does also. Yes, we do need to remain competitive, but we are pretty competitive here in the county. The 4,384 people are employed in or around this county and are from this county. We only have 10,761 people in the county. Half of those, or about half, are on fixed income. 1,200 are in school, and 1,200 are on some sort of assistance in this county. So yes, we do. We need to attract businesses. But if the key to success for counties to keep the tax rates low is more people and more business than Fairfax County, Henrico County, Chesterfield County, Hanover County, every one of those would have the cheapest tax rates in the state of Virginia. And that's not the way it works. So we have to be smart with the way that we do business. We need sewer and water. I wanted to develop it when I was on the board in 2009. We had a plan. We even had a joint venture with private industry to develop some of the sewer and water around Saluda and on down to Cook's Corner. But we didn't do it. The board changed. They decided that was a bad idea, and it's been 10 years, and now we're coming back to it. But we don't have the support from private industry like we had at that particular time. They were going to pick up a lot of the cost of sewer. But things have changed. Things do change. You got to remember that our schools have always lately been in the top percentile as far as education. We are 82nd out of 133 districts, and that's not too bad for a free school system. We do a lot for the kids here in the county, and we can do a lot more. Teachers definitely needed a raise. There's no doubt about that. Teachers, my mother had taught, her sister had taught. I had two aunts and uncles in Northern Virginia that taught, so I've been around teachers a long time, and they never get the sort of pay and the accolades that they really deserve, because they take our children and they educate them, and then they put them out to college or to jobs, and that's the future of our country, that's the future of our county. So I don't want to tell you a lot about me. Most of y'all know I've been on the board. Most of you know I was chairman. Most of you know I worked on the airport committee, and most of you know that I was chairman of that and chairman of this and all of that is kind of like in sales. People ask you, say, well, what'd you do today? That's what I did yesterday. What I want to do is what I know we can do here in this county, which is develop smart business, cut the cost as much as we possibly can. I've heard it said that you can't cut the budget here. Fred and Crittenden and I, Kenneth Wayne, we always found a way to cut a few dollars. I yield my minute.
Mr. Crump, that first question is for you.
Okay.
We'll be alternating as.
Okay.
What are your priorities if elected, and what is your personal vision and mission for Middlesex County?
The priorities that I have haven't been spoken of in any of this run-up to this election. There are some fundamental things that government is supposed to do. And one of them is to protect the citizenry. The other is to educate here on county level. Protect the citizenry, you have to support the fire department, the sheriff's department, and the rescue squads. Our rescue squads are mostly volunteer. They're also aging. The county needs to help the rescue squads as much as possible. Rescue squads have to be certified. The people almost have to be doctors to work on an ambulance. If you don't have volunteer rescue squads and you call a paid-for rescue squad, you're going to pay. One way or the other, you're going to pay some money. And we are blessed with the amount of volunteers that we have here in this county that are willing to do that kind of work. But we need to support them, and we need to look to the future of how we're going to continue to maintain our volunteer rescue. Because in many, many counties, many areas, they've lost that, and it's a huge expense on the county. We're talking about millions of dollars in equipment, training, and salaries. And right now, all the fire departments are volunteer. Only Urbana, as far as I know, has paid rescue. They have, it's a 50-50 kind of thing. Part of it's paid, part of it's not. The other things that I'd like to see happen in the county is when we begin to move water and sewer down 30 and free, that we plan for businesses like Williamsburg did. Now, we've all been to Williamsburg, and you see how the businesses blend in with the area and can become part of the scenery of the area as much as the regular scenery and preserve our view shed. Those kind of things are the things that we need to be looking to in the future. At some point, we are going to have to build a new sheriff's office. The sheriff's office there is totally inadequate. It doesn't need to be this year. It may not need to be next year. But if we don't start planning for it now, when we do get to it, we won't have a plan. And a bad plan's better than no plan. But I don't hear anybody planning on these things. So when we go out and we look at our county and we look at where we are now, the vision is to keep it as rural as possible with smart business that's compatible with the area, business that will enhance rather than detract from this area. And I think that that's my goal as a supervisor. And also to keep taxes at a reasonable rate. There's only 10,760 some people in this county. And half of them on fixed income. So we need to be able to do the things that we need to do, but we need to do it smartly, and we need to do it efficiently. I yield.
Ms. Swinehart, did you want me to repeat the question?
Sure.
What are your top priorities if re-elected, and what is your personal vision and mission for Middlesex County?
My top priority is to help people work together. My intention and my priority personally is to listen as much as possible, to know what is important to the people in Harmony Village and in Middlesex County, and to be able to hear in what people, where the ideas are coming from, what will work, and where someone else is thinking a similar solution. I really believe that we have the ability to work together and solve our problems. And we can do that by being frugal, being conservative with our resources, paying attention to the needs of everyone in our county and in the district, and finding solutions that help the prosperity go deep. It is true that we have low unemployment in this county. It's a little bit under 4%, I believe. But an awful lot of people have to commute outside of the county to earn a living. And an awful lot of people also would appreciate having a little bit more opportunity or choices for employment within the community. Our businesses, too, are interested in workforce development. So I think we need to be pursuing options to nurture the businesses that we have here and make it inviting for new businesses to come. I do think it's very important that the county be prepared and be prepared to invest in infrastructure. And to do that, we have to pay very close attention to our budget and to make sure that we have the reserves. In past years, there were times when the reserves that the county had were so low that we were in danger of not making payroll. And that was when taxes were cut too low so that the county was not on a stable footing. I would not be in favor of that kind of tax cut for bragging rights. I am in favor of keeping taxes low. And I think if we do that, we plan for the future, we put reserves aside for dredging fund, for the sewer payment. That's all in this budget that was just passed. That is we're ready to go. We can keep the tax rate low and we can find solutions. And I also want to invest smartly in people so that the people here have the ability to enjoy the environment, to welcome new visitors and new residents. And we can do that with a comprehensive plan in a very controlled and planned way so that everyone enjoys the quality of life.
Thank you, next.
Now we're going to get a bit more specific. I think I sound better without the microphone than I do with the microphone. Then let's play it now. Now we're going to get a bit more specific, and now I can talk like I normally talk. What are your ideas for growing small businesses, keeping existing businesses, and attracting new businesses to the county?
Well, business is the theme of the evening, and I think that's great. One of the things that I think is really helpful is that by funding the position for an economic development director and also the revitalization of the Economic Development Authority, we've been able to amp up our game. We now participate in a cooperative effort called Virginia's River Realm. If you haven't seen the ads or the billboards for that, you will be seeing more of them. And it's a great way to coordinate efforts so that small businesses, at no cost to them, small and large businesses, but small businesses can benefit especially, advertise their special events, whether you're in the restaurant or recreation field, when you have a special event or festivals, all of those things are being promoted statewide in coordination with the Virginia Tourism Council. And you can go to this website and find, where do I want to eat? If I come down for a special event, where can I stay? What are the accommodations? There are many people who are looking into or expanding or adding on to vacation rentals. All these programs, Airbnb and all those kind of things. Those are very legitimate and appropriate uses of some of our properties. And in this way, people who don't live here can find their way. Years ago, when people came to Middlesex for summer recreation or weekends, they frequently had a family member or your friend's grandmother had a cottage, and you had access maybe to a boat or to the water or to sail or to help out on a farm and have that experience. Now we are attracting visitors who maybe don't have that connection. So we need to be able to promote ways for those people to come and find the business, find where they can rent a boat, where they can rent a place to stay, where they can go out to eat. So that's one way. The other is by helping businesses with their workforce needs. Now, one thing that the school's budget recently added was a career and technical teacher at the high school. This is in direct response to some of the needs for workforce for the businesses that are here. I think the internet broadband, high-speed broadband is very important. Some of our businesses enjoy that now, but we need to try to make it accessible to every business so that you can check out in your business just as quickly as possible and they can serve as many customers as possible. Those are the main ways I think that we help our businesses. But the other way is also being responsive. When an industry comes to the Board of Supervisors and says, we are hurting here, we're suffering, we need some help, the Board of Supervisors needs to pay attention. We need to do our best to help that industry. And I'm talking about the industry, especially in Deltaville, relating to the boats and the marinas. We also need to make sure that our county is responsive to the needs of people in the agriculture and timber and other industries by being responsive to their needs in terms of taxes, but also their needs in terms of future development or future land use needs. So I do think we have great potential here in this county, and I think we have people with a lot of really good ideas. It's amazing. And Cook's Corner and the revitalization there is going to be the most visible evidence of that coming up in just a few months.
Crump, do you want me to repeat the question?
No. Well, go ahead, Eddie.
What are your ideas for growing small businesses, keeping existing businesses, and attracting new businesses to the county?
Okay. The first thing that government does is they facilitate. They don't create businesses. They create an environment for businesses. They create an environment that is friendly to businesses. How do we do that? First thing you do, you provide good schools, safe neighborhoods. You provide fair taxes. On the boat tax, instead of having an upside-down tax where 5 tons and over pay 61 cents on the 100 on book value, and the guy with the John boat pays 98 cents a 100 on the book value, it should be, if you're going to cut it, You cut it straight across the board. 61 cents for the John boat, 61 cents for the other boat, for the 5 ton and over. If you're going to help the marinas in Deltaville and Urbana and throughout the county here, what you need to do is be looking at being able to work with that industry. Removing part of the boat tax was a good start. Where are you going to go from here? They're still having troubles. I spent 2 hours with a marina owner just the other day. Sat down and talked and talked and talked. That's why I got the sunburn. And it's something that we can do. We need to be looking at stepping that tax down. Now, yes, we have to make that up somewhere. But through cuts in budget, through increase in perhaps a penny on the food tax, you can get there. You can make up for the tax. And that doesn't guarantee that the boats will come back right away. But what that will do, it'll send a message to the owners of the marinas that, by golly, we're in the corner. With the farmers, we need to continue to keep the land use privilege. It affects so many things that you just don't even know about. I mean, our environment depends on the farms and the woodlands. Without that, we wouldn't have all of the squirrels, the deer, and all the beautiful scenery that we have in this county. And that's a draw for businesses, because people that come to a county, wherever they move, they come to have a beautiful view, good schools, safe streets, something to do. There's plenty around here to do if you want to do it. There's water, there's baseball, there's football. We just, a few years ago, took the worst football field in the entire state. And I know it was the worst one because I had some friends of mine that refereed on that field. And now we've got one of the best in the state. And it cost us a few dollars, but those kids are playing better football, and it's a pleasure to go up to that stadium and see it. It's just a good place to be. So this is how you facilitate businesses. You make an environment around that's welcoming, and you provide the infrastructure that's necessary, and you follow the comprehensive plan. I remember when we did the comprehensive plan some years ago when I was on the board, and we had drawn out the areas for development was Cook's Corner, Locust Hill, Hartfield, Deltaville. That's the way the comp plan went. Now, I don't know if they've changed it in all these years, but that's the way it went. That's my ideas of how it's supposed to be done.
So that the need for future increases, such as real estate increases in the real estate tax, personal property taxes, and business taxes, do not have to increase.
The only plan that you can use to keep taxes low is keep the spending low. You don't have a taxing problem. You don't have a money problem up there. You got a spending problem. You have to set your priorities. The first thing you do is prioritize. What do you need first in the county? And then go from there. Well, of course, you need a good police force. You need good schools. Schools suck up about $16 million of this budget. Cost us about $13,000 a student. If you just take the whole thing, that's a lot of money. And that cost is not going to go down. So you have to pick it up somewhere else. So when you increase businesses without increasing the population too much, then you're going to make a profit. You'll get money in. The trick is to balance it to where it balances out. So much business, so much population. The reason that we've got so many good rescue squads, good fire departments, is because there are people here with the time to be able to go out and volunteer. If you get so many in a population, then it has to be paid for because everybody's struggling to make a living. But if you keep the taxes low, and they don't have to be, when I was finishing up on the board in 2009, the last year on the board I was chairman, I had a $16 million budget. We dredged Broad Creek with the help of Fred and Kenneth Wayne and Bill Pruitt, going up to the Pentagon and working with the Corps of Engineers. We saved the county $1 million. That was the last year. They said we weren't going to get that money. Mr. Obama said that he had shovel-ready programs. I said, boys, I said, you know, he says that on television and we've got the spoil site already done. We got a shovel-ready program. So that's how that got done. We spent $140,000 and restored the courthouse so that you had a place to meet, a place to have meetings, a place for the board to meet. We didn't raise taxes that year, and we ended up with a surplus in the fund balance. Now we have $100,000 that's supposed to be going into the fund balance or into some column in it, and that's supposed to be dredging of the creeks. Now I understand that that's any creek that the Corps of Engineers would dredge, not just Broad Creek or Whiting Creek, but any creek that's supposed to be dredged by the Corps. And that was started because of what happened at Broad Creek and the trouble we had getting the money and finding out that we weren't going to be able to get federal funds to dredge the creeks in the counties. And they've got to be dredged. It's something that you have to do. So, you know, you've got to work smart. You've got to do it. You can't do government like a business, but you can do it a little like a business. You can look at it from what can we do ourselves? Where can we save money? Where can we use volunteers? What are the things that we can do that will save the most money? Where can we cut that it won't hurt an individual? And where can we cut where it will not hurt the taxpayers of Middlesex County? I don't see really tax cuts. What I see is controlled spending from here on out that will allow us to do the projects we need to do over time, but maintain a stable fund balance, because that's what we pay our bills with. I yield.
Thank you. Swinehart. Do you have a plan to control the county's expenses so that the need for future increases, such as increases in real estate taxes, personal property taxes, and business taxes do not have to occur?
Well, I do think that broadening our tax base so we are not solely dependent on residential real estate is very important, and we've talked about that a good bit this evening. I also think that when we are spending, we want to invest in people. We have found through hiring some very smart people that we are taking greater advantage of grant funds. In the Sheriff's Department, for example, a good bit of the emergency services equipment updates have been done through grants because we have an employee there who has experience, who has done this in other counties, and has been able to magnify what we are able to spend. That has also happened with the Cook's Corner project. In Cook's Corner, the state is willing to give us a revitalization grant because we are capable of matching some funds with infrastructure improvements that we wanted to do anyway. But now we're getting really double benefit. And I think that kind of really smart investment is good. In the schools, the same thing. Schools are a challenge in terms of spending. I would note, though, that we're not spending $13,000 Middlesex. That is the total per pupil, but only about $8,500 of that is coming from the Middlesex county budget. We get some funding from the state and a little bit from the federal government. So just for clarification's sake, my experience as a school principal, I was principal of a small school and we were self-sustaining. And budgets I know are very challenging. But when a mission is defined and people are working together, you can solve problems with fewer resources and things can be turned around. But you have to have the kind of community where people are really willing to invest, and that means that they're getting the support and encouragement that they need. In terms of controlling spending, I absolutely agree. But I would be cautionary that, yes, we want to invest and be very frugal and conservative with our funds. But we can't promise that we're not going to cut spending and we're not going to increase taxes, or we're going to cut taxes and we're not going to increase. We can't promise everything to everybody. And I've heard a little bit of that tonight. What we can promise is to have a plan, and I think that the budget that we passed this year is a plan that will move forward and keep us financially secure, will invest in people, that will bring additional businesses here to our county. And I don't think that we're going to have to, if we can be successful in that way, we can control and keep taxes low, and we can keep our spending in line with our resources. So that's, I think we're in agreement there. I do think that when we're talking about budgets and taxes and spending, we just have to be careful not to overpromise. We can be frugal, we can solve our problems, but we can also move forward and keep competitive with our neighboring counties.
Our next question is Swinehart. It's not a question, it's just a comment statement. Please discuss your views on central water and sewer for the county, how it has progressed, and how you hope it will progress.
Well, I'll start with the water. One of the things I think is most impressive with the water is how much volunteer effort has gone into that, the contributions of expertise and time to make this water plan happen. It's my understanding that there are over 600 subscribers, that things are pretty much on schedule in terms of getting the engineering done and getting things started for the initial line going from Rosegill to Cook's Corner and then on to Locust Hill and Topping. This water authority is separate from the county government. It does have the support of the county government in terms of county buildings will be hooked up to it, which will be a long-term advantage. It does have some funding from the county to put fire hydrants along this line, which will benefit every surrounding property owner, just having that access to that water. And I think that it's going to be very beneficial for those in the county who choose to sign up for the water in the areas where it's available. I think it's very important to have the water not only for the benefit of people between Rosegill and Hartfield, but also for those in Deltaville who choose to sign up. It's very important in terms of property values to have that reliable, high-quality water supply. So I think it's a good program, and I'm very glad to see that it's on track to be sustainable. The sewer system, I think, is much more of an investment in economic opportunity. That will require county funds to build the collection system, but then Hampton Roads will take over and operate the system. Again, I think people from throughout the county will benefit from that because we will be able to develop a little bit more of the commercial clusters or villages and sustain and attract businesses. There are a number of businesses now that are hanging on and getting letters from Department of Environmental Quality because of their water supply and the sewage situation. So we need to take advantage of that and use those funds to invest in the future.
Views on the water system. My views on the water system is that this is a good way to accomplish a couple of things. Anywhere water goes, anywhere sewer goes, you're going to see development because it makes every piece of property that ties onto it able to develop. Okay? Now, the way that it's done and what they're doing up there right now with the Water Authority, I really don't know everything about. I've tried to find out as much as I can. And I think that's where we need a little more transparency from the Board of Supervisors and the Water Authority so that people in the county can really and truly understand how it's going to work, what the grant process is, how much will it cost the county, and what the investment will actually be. Those are questions that I have, and I'm in topping, and I would be getting the water. I haven't signed up for it. I have a water system on my house, much like a lot of you have, because water down here in Deltaville just isn't that good in a lot of places. And they need water and have needed water down here for a long time. And it's been talked about for as long as I can remember in the county, and as long as some of my older friends who are now 82 and 83 and 84 years old can remember. So, yeah, I think it's about time to have some water and sewer. I think I was always in favor of getting it into Saluda area and getting it into Cook's Corner and eventually working our way down. But when you develop it, the way that most places develop is that the water and sewer is put to a certain distance. Then that development pays for the next section of water and sewer. And that saves the county money. Everybody talks about grants. Fred Crittenden used to tell me, boy, watch out for grants. There's two things you got to know about grants. One thing is that a lot of them come with strings. The second thing is that this county pays up front for the grants. In other words, when we get a grant at the airport, it's a 80-20 split. The state pays 80%, the county pays 20%, but we pay all 100% of it up front. And if you ever send an invoice to the state, well, you know when you're going to get your money. Or maybe you don't know when you're going to get your money. But that's the way grants work. So we need to be more transparent in government overall. That's one of the things that I've heard from people going around and talking is transparency in county government. What are they doing? And why don't I know? And I was up there. I mean, a lot of people just don't come to the meetings. A lot of people don't show up at seminars are at a public meeting about a project. And we really need to do a better job of that ourselves. I mean, that's on us. But water and sewer, it's a good thing. It will help. It will build businesses. It will build residentials. The main thing that you gotta remember is, how much is this gonna cost you up front? And how do you want to expand as you plan to develop? What's going to be in Cook's Corner business? We already pretty much know that. They want to move the old school across the street. They want to put in a kitchen for the Rappahannock Oyster Company so they can do prepare dishes to go to the other restaurants. So we know what that's going to be, but what's going to be in Locust Hill, and how will that be developed? Those are the things we need to be asking. I'm good. Well, no, I'm not even, but
Along those lines, what are your thoughts on the Cook's Corner project?
I think it's a pretty good project. Looks good to me. From what I can find out about it, I've been to several of the meetings about the workforce housing. The money seems to be coming in. Lawrence from over in Urbana must ask 5,000 questions. Is the county going to have to pay money? And it must have been 5,000 answers saying no, they're not going to have to. So I don't expect it'll really cost the county a whole lot. Now they have to sponsor the grants. All these grants, if you've got a private group, in other words, like the foundation that's doing Cook's Corner, any grant they're getting has got to be sponsored by the county. County's got to stand good for it, which means that you got to not stop halfway through the process, or you lose the money. You've got to be able to complete that project. That's the way we had to do things at the airport. When I first went down to the airport committee, we were changing our own light bulbs, and we couldn't get 5 cents from the state for anything. And now they give us money to upkeep. They give us money for radio equipment. They give us a lot of money. And that is pretty much without any strings. The only requirement they've got is you complete the project promptly. That's what they want. And that's what all grant, whenever you get a grant, regardless of whether it's a grant from the government for something that you're doing, research, or whatever it might be, they want you completed. They want results at the end of the day. So the Cook's Corner project, I think it's really good. I think that it will work. I do know there are places in Middlesex County that are for rent these days and times. Now, it was a time when you couldn't find a place, but I've talked to several real estate agents, and there are some places that are fairly affordable and pretty nice too. But I think that the workforce housing is probably a good idea. It's worked over in Kilmarnock. If you've ever been over there, it's really a pretty nice facility. And it has worked for them, and they haven't had any problems out of it. I don't know that there aren't some potential problems down the road for it, but nothing that I can really see at this point. I think it'll be a good project. I think it'll help the county. And, you know, sometimes when you do something, there's a thing called unintended consequences. Sometimes, I told a friend of mine, I said, well, you know, we kind of struggled through and got this money from the government. And they said, yeah, man, that was a good idea. I said, it was only a good idea because it worked. That was why it was a good idea, it worked. So sometimes the ideas that we have, we think they're great. But then there's some of those unintended consequences that we just don't foresee down the road. So All in all, great project. I want to see the school moved across. I think that'd be great. They're going to put a brewery in it. It seems like the African American community is on board with it. I don't really see a downside to it. Plus, you get an expansion of an existing business that's here in the county. I'll yield that one.
Thank you. I too think the Cook's Corner project is a realization of a lot of terrific effort. And what is most impressive to me is that many parts of that project were coming together through voluntary or individual business, private business efforts. Plans were underway. The Rappahannock Oyster was looking for ways, how can we expand our business? Where can we locate a kitchen? What can we do with that beautiful building that used to be part of St. Clair Walker High School? The county was looking for, well, we need to put some improvements into those buildings that we own. The administration and the social services building and the gym attached there needs some work. The bus barn could use some replacement. How can we solve that problem? And then the Middlesex Foundation, which had a goal of providing workforce housing to make Middlesex attractive for new professional employees to come here to live as part of a community and to contribute to our schools, our government, and other businesses here. Some of those people were actually renting places in the Kilmarnock development. Well, we want those people to come here and live here and enjoy life here. So the Cook's Corner plan came together, and all those private efforts and wonderful ideas have been leveraged because the county was prepared. The money had been put aside, not dreamt of, not thought about, but put aside for the engineering for the sewer system. That money is the match that makes the grants possible. All of this has come together because of hard work and dedication and being prepared and not being worried about, well, what if we make a mistake? No, we're going to invest, be prepared, put our efforts where our hopes are, and believe in the people of this county to make great things happen. So I'm really looking forward. I can't wait till that ground is broken.
Increase was the largest increase in recent memory for the county.
I'm actually proud of that vote. I thought that that was a very good budget because it invested in people. A big part of the budget, the matching the expenses to the revenues, had to do with the schools. Now, I wasn't part of the initial negotiations and meetings and collaboration with the school. That was developed ahead of time with my colleagues, Chip Holt and John Coons, serving on that finance committee. But the point of that was that there was a great deal of cooperation between the board and the schools, and both bodies could address the problems that were being faced. And one of them was the decline in the effective teacher's salary, that it happened over 10 years when the teacher's salaries were not keeping up even with the cost of living. Over a period of about 10 years, if the teachers had gotten the Social Security cost of living adjustment, their starting salary would now be over $42,000. It's just under $42,000, about $41,300, I believe. That was a loss of competitiveness that we could not afford to sustain. We were recruiting and retraining up to 25 employees every year in the school system. That's a waste of funding. We were becoming the training ground for other school systems. Get a few years in Middlesex and then come and make some money with us. Well, that is just not the way to serve our students. Now, I believe in good schools. I believe that we have the capacity to keep our schools improving and having great schools because the people here are invested in it, and we need to match their commitment with the commitment of the community. That was a big part, and in fact, all 5 board members supported that school budget. There was no difference among any member in terms of support for the school budget. The points of contention in that budget came down to a reduction of the boat tax and not even just a way of allocating funds to support the YMCA. So really, out of this $26 million budget, we were apart, a couple of us, on $168,000. That's a very small percentage. And for that amount of money, I believe the budget we passed gave a little bit of a boost to the boating industry, the marine industry, and the employees that work for those industries and the commitment those marinas and other businesses have had to keep their employees on. And we said, we're with you. We can't do everything that you are asking for and perhaps need, but we are with you. We recognize your commitment and the value to our entire community and our economy. And I thought that was worth that amount of money. And I was proud to vote for that budget. And I think it showed a lot of consensus in our community. And since then, I have been speaking to people on a daily basis, people I've known for a while, people I'm getting to know, and people that are brand new to me. In all those conversations, I have not yet had one person say, you shouldn't have done that. I think it was a good vote, and I'm proud of it.
Mr. Crump, you don't get that question.
I didn't think I would. I'm innocent.
Mr. Crump, you were previously a supervisor. We'd like to know now, what is your position on the budget increases given our overall population and school enrollment, neither of which has increased very much over the last year?
Well, I think I've been alluding to this all evening, that about half of the citizenry here is on fixed income, and that we have to look after the citizens that we have while trying to bring in business and trying to do things that will help offset the real estate tax and personal property. It can get out of control. We can do the things that we need to do if we prioritize. And we can get through without raising taxes again, I think, after this huge tax increase. I think it was 12.5%, something like that. Anyway, it was 2 cents the year before and then 5 cents this year, if you do the math. Anyway, there are some things that we can do. When I was on the board, the first thing that I did when I was chairman, we have so many things on the budget that we can't do a thing about. We're going to have to give a certain amount to the sheriff's department. We're going to have to give a certain amount to the schools. We're going to have to give a certain amount to this. We're going to have to give a certain amount to that. The things that we had to increase, like sheriff's department, it's not adequate. The amount the state tells you or the Commonwealth tells you that you have to give the sheriff's department is not adequate to run the sheriff's department. So you know you have to talk about that and add to it. But there are some things that you don't need to talk about. So the first thing I had Charlie Cully do when he was up there at the courthouse, I said, Charlie, I said, I want you to take a magic marker and put it through every one of these things that we can't do a darn thing about. I said, now, I said, let's go down here and work through the parts that we can do something about. And then we came up at that time with a $16 million budget. Now, you couldn't have a $16 million budget today because the rate of inflation is 1.7, at least for the last 9 years. And you have to understand that taxes are going to go up. I mean, taxes don't come down. If you have a reassessment and they'll reassess your property up and the taxes come down, the volume on your property is higher, so you're going to pay more taxes. If the assessment's lower, then you're going to pay more taxes. So you're not going to get away from it. A death in taxes are a sure thing. But you can do the things that we did to prioritize what our real needs were. You have to separate needs from wants. Now, we need a police force. We need a school system. We need fire and rescue. Those are things that we absolutely positively need. We want water system. As long as we can find a way to do water and sewer at a reasonable cost, we add that into the budget. The trick is not to increase it, because once budgets start going up, I saw this in Hanover County when they started developing. Hanover County had the cheapest taxes anywhere around Richmond. It started getting developed, started putting sewer and water in. They let it get completely out of hand. Next thing you know, taxes in Hanover are darn near as high as the taxes in Henrica. And Henrica is one of two counties in the Commonwealth take care of their own roads. So the taxes always been high there. So, yes, we can control taxes. We can't get away from them. And that's what the board has to do. That's what Fred, Kenneth Wayne, myself, Jack, and Wayne Jesse did when I was there. And that was what we always looked to do. And we tried to protect our citizenry, and we tried to look after the folks that are on fixed income that have retired down here, at the same time trying to take care of the folks that are working and promote business. And around my house there's plenty of business because I'm at the airport. And you know, I love it. I think it's great. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me say
I got to hold on to it.
that I was told we were to end at 7:15. Now have each 5 minutes for your closing remarks, which will mean that we will end at 7:14. That is the first time in the history of me moderating anything that something that started on time and ended on time.
I'm all for that. I'm for an hour meeting. That's my thing. I believe in that. 1 hour meeting's all anybody needs. After that, they start going to sleep. I think in closing, you know who I am. I've been around a while. I've done a lot in the county. I've always volunteered in the county. Volunteered with Wings and Wheels for 18 years, ran it for 1 year. Did all the layout, worked up the county, worked with social services, still work with social services, sort of in the background. And I see a county here, a friend of mine used to call it the Gold Coast. We've got waterfront. When you fly over this, you're looking at the most beautiful land on the East Coast. All the way down the bay. I've flown the whole entire bay over and over and over. And I've watched it grow over the years that I've been flying up here. Now, I can't fly anymore. But you see the creeks, you see the tributaries to the rivers, all come together in the most beautiful way that God ever created anywhere. I've been a lot of places in this country. I've been to Mexico, I've been to Canada. I've never been to Europe. But this is a beautiful country and Middlesex and the surrounding counties are one of the most beautiful places that God ever put on this earth. And we need to keep them that way as much as we possibly can. We need to, my granddaughter asked me, she's the executive of our will, and I said, well, what do you want out of this? She said, I want to be able to come back to Middlesex County and live in the old house. That's what her dream is. She's working up in Fredericksburg for a financial corporation, but that's what she wants to do. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to preserve it for our children and their children. Now, we have to have growth. Anybody tells you that you can't have, that you don't want growth, well, there's something wrong with that. Because I'll tell you something, if you stop growing, that means that the folks up there in the Salute are going to come get you and take you away in a box. You got to grow. So does county. So does the state. It's how we grow and the way we do it that means the difference. We don't want to end up like the strip down through Gloucester all the way to the Coleman Bridge. I mean, I don't mind driving 5 or 6 miles to go to the store. I really don't mind driving to Gloucester to go to Walmart. I really don't. I've been doing that all my life. I was born and raised out in eastern Henrica County, and it was 7 miles into Richmond. And that was the best thing in the world because we weren't close to any city. We were close enough to get in and shop because then you shopped up on Church Hill. Safeway up there, just down from 25th Street. But let me tell you, it's how we do this, and we do it together. We're all one county. We're all one people. We have the same hopes, the same dreams, the same loves. And that's the things that are dear to us, along with the land and the water that we've come to love here. So if you vote for me, I'll guarantee you, I won't promise you the lowest taxes in the world, but what I will tell you is they'll be responsible. I'll make sure that they're responsible. I'll make sure that we are transparent, and I'll make sure that it's honest. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for putting up with me and listening to me. My wife's done it for 53 years, but I don't know why. I haven't figured it out yet.
Thank you. I, too, am glad that you came out tonight. I really appreciate it. I would like to point out a couple of things. We've talked a lot about fiscal responsibility tonight, and it is actually true that it wasn't too many years ago, Mr. Crump had talked about his time on the board, when the county was in pretty desperate straits. There was a cash flow problem one year because the revenues did not match the expenses. And there was concern about meeting payroll. There were grant opportunities that we were unable to take advantage of. There were also no plans put in place for sewer collection system or for making water available to citizens who wanted to sign up for it. Those things did not happen. Since I've been on the board, we have addressed some issues. We talked a little bit about the school salaries, and it's not just the salaries, it's the people. Having the best people come to our county, work for us, and bring the best for our students and for our local government and for our law enforcement. We have put the funding in, the engineering is underway for a sewer collection system. We have a water authority. The water has been tested. The DEQ is giving their assent. That water is coming. And these things have happened in a short amount of time. We also have transparency. I would invite you anytime, if you want to go on the county website, all the county supervisor meetings are videotaped, and that videotape is available in short order. And you're welcome to watch the whole meeting or just clips of it, and frequently there are references to where to find things. We also have a situation now where we want to work together in the county and avoid ever pitting one area of the county against another. If I was to state one thing that I really want to work towards in this county, it is bringing people together. And that means people who live in different parts of the county, who work in different parts geographically, but different businesses, bringing business and government together, bringing schools and organizations together. The more we work together, the more we will accomplish. And you can see that through the volunteer efforts that are already underway in Middlesex and are really thriving. We want to continue that, and with creative solutions, with a great respect for the people who live here and their money, we can keep our taxes under control and we can keep competitive. And that's what we need to do. We cannot wait any longer to do the things we've been talking about if we want our county to thrive, our children to be able to stay and visit, our businesses to thrive. And that's our goal. It can happen, and it will happen. And I look forward and ask for your support. Thank you again for being here, for listening.